domestic travel has becoming a problem. There are reports that are circulating around in the news channels, and we ourselves have experienced in some people where the extension of their visa is pending and they were being issued a notice to appear in the deportation proceedings since they are traveling in the domestic travel. We're not speaking of the international travel. Emily and Stephen, can you update what's going on? Even though you guys so many times stated that I'm allowed to even work on the H-1B extension, even though my I-94 and passport visa expired. And people who are in the H-4, you guys said that we can stay in United States. We don't need the H-4 approval for us to stay in United States and H-4. And you said that 100 times. And now this is happening. Can you explain this?
Hold on, I'll let Emily explain, but we're not saying it. DHS's statutes and regulations say it.
Yeah, we are in bizarro world where immigration attorneys are talking about domestic air travel to start off with. So anything that we've said about immigration, I feel like is just out the window right now. What are we actually seeing? So if you have filed your extension timely, maybe you're an H-1B holder or an L holder or E or whatever your status is, you all know that you have to file your extension before your current I-94 expires. And as long as you have timely filed your extension, once your I-94 does actually expire, if your extension is still pending, you are lawfully allowed to remain in the US for the entire time the extension is pending, and you have work authorization for up to 240 extra days. Everybody knows that, except for ICE and TSA. When you go to a domestic airport to fly domestically, we have reports of people who, scan their passport at the TSA pre-check or whatever it is and go through security, and then an ICE agent walks up and says, "Come with me." And they say, "Well, you're here and your I-94 is expired." And they're like, "Well, I filed an extension. I have my I-797 receipt notice." And they take several hours to review that and say, "Well, we don't have that in our records. We only see your expired I-94." They take their sweet time and do eventually let people go. We have had a report of someone being let go, but with an NTA. Others were let go after they were able to document that they were lawfully present. The difference between being in status and being lawfully present. Stephen, you want to kind of give the rundown of why that makes a difference right now?
Yeah, I mean, the problem we're seeing right now, Emily, is that people that are in a period of authorized stay because they timely filed a change of status, an extension, a application for a green card, we're now hearing issues at airports with domestic travel. And these are not people who are unlawfully present. These are not people who had status violations. These aren't late filings. These aren't out of status. These are people with pending stuff.
But they technically are out of status.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, but I guess they didn't violate status is what I would mean. But these articles were talking about expired visas, and everybody who doesn't know immigration was like, well, duh, they don't have a valid visa, get out. But I don't think it's people so much that have valid I-94s and an expired visa. I think it's people that are in that period of authorized stay that we're starting to hear of. And I don't know how widespread it is yet, but I think it's important to tell people that it's happening.
I have noticed that things are happening in California and Virginia. There were reports, and I personally have seen two cases. One NTA, one was being questioned and let go, but he has been questioned for about 1 hour by the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency. Here is where the root cause is. What I'm thinking about is that the Trump administration put a notice to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement that they have to detain 2,000 people every single day. Now, they have gone to all low hanging fruits. They went to the Home Depot kind of places where according to them, some of the undocumented people are hanging around. They raided those places. They raided some of the places where people were using the fake IDs to work, and they raided those places. Now they are out of the low hanging fruit, though. So now they are camping in the airports to try to do fishing. And the main issue is popping up when people are showing the passport that is creating, and that to foreign passport, that is creating a doubt in the minds of the immigration customs enforcement, and then they're asking. I haven't seen in this uh, in any of these arrests or any of these detentions or notice to appear anybody who have used the driving license with real ID. Now the driving license California has two things, real ID and non-real ID. But so if it's a real ID driving license, we have not seen anybody getting arrested. Now of course for real ID there are some restrictions, especially you must have an extension already approved. And in some states, for example, in Texas, they may not even give you the real ID if you're moving from somewhere to Texas and you don't have a passport visa extension along with it. So issue is that if you already have the extension approved, you have it with you, we do not see any problem. If you have a real ID, for example, the person who is in adjustment of status and he has an EAD, we recommend that particular person to get a real ID immediately if you're not already gotten it. And if your ID is not, it's a driving license with not a real ID. For example, in California, they do issue that. Get a real ID because based on the EAD, you will get a real ID. You should not have any problem in traveling. But if you don't have a real ID, you have a passport and your extension is pending, we want to have a caution for you because they may question and sometimes detain or may issue a notice to appear. It is not happening for all the people, it is happening to some people. Emily, Steven?
Yeah, so this would be for, as you mentioned, basically anyone who has an I-94 that has actually expired and they have a pending extension of stay, a pending change of status, or a pending adjustment of status. So you have an I-129 pending, an I-539 pending, or an I-485 pending. And on the 485, you don't have your EAD yet. We would caution you to avoid domestic travel, or if you are going to travel domestically, carry your original I-797 approval notice that's expired and your original I-797 receipt notice showing the timely extension, so that you can immediately be able to show an officer that you are lawfully present. If you don't want to worry about that at all, maybe not travel domestically by air until your extension is approved. And as a reminder, we've been saying for the entire Trump administration, file your extensions early so that you never get in a situation where your I-94 expires. Although, yes, you are lawfully present, you can work, you can do all those things. This is yet another reason to not let your I-94 expire. File in premium processing. When it comes to your status, if you have that option, get the approval before your I-94 expires. In those situations, we've not seen people have issues at the airport. It's specifically for people whose I-94 has expired and their extension or change of status or EAD is not yet approved.
Yeah, I mean, this is, Emily, this is the consequences of Stephen Miller pushing for however many thousands of arrests a day, right? They are more interested in a statistic than doing their job properly. You have ICE agents that are undertrained on immigration law, and so when you don't have a approval notice, they don't understand the nuance that you're okay. And because they're being pushed by higher ups to hit quotas, we're seeing them now take this action. And again, I don't think it's everybody, but it's a trend that is worth us discussing on a Friday.
I have a very good question that came up with this Jagrat Loya. He has an adjustment of status pending. His I-94 is stamped with DA, which is advanced parole. He entered an advanced parole. His I-94 may have expired because it's only valid for 1 year. And we have consistently said, yeah, you're perfectly legal to stay in United States. That's what we said. Now, what we are recommending for people who are in adjustment of status right now is you have an EAD because you have an advanced parole, you most probably have EAD. Get a real ID and use that real ID for travel. There's a gentleman asking, I have an adjustment of status C9 EAD. I travel a lot. This is from Mac from Twitter, he's saying it. We recommend you to get the real ID driving license. Make sure that you get it. Since you have an EAD, you should be getting a real ID. Then we are not seeing any problem for those people. Now, what is a period of authorized stay? What is a legal stay is where the debate is coming, though. Emily and Stephen were telling from the beginning, when the extension is pending, for example, H1B or H4 or L1 or L2, you are in a period of authorized stay. But technically, it's not a legal stay until after it's been approved. So even though it's a period of authorized stay, Emily and Stephen, why are they not understanding it that these people are in a period of authorized stay?
I think it is probably a training issue, probably a bad data issue. I mean, they've said that, from people that have reported to us, when they showed their receipt notice of their pending extension, the officer said that's not in our system. And so maybe that data is not fully being shared and they're only getting a list of people with expired I-94s. We don't really know. And it very well could be a training issue as well. These are certainly a lot of new officers being hired by ICE during the Trump administration to carry out this mass deportation plan. And when you have newer officers and these tiny nuances within immigration law, where even immigration lawyers mess up the terminology and don't explain it properly, what's the difference between a visa and status and legal stay? I mean, that those words get used interchangeably all the time. But they do have specific meanings, and they do have meanings within the law that not everybody is aware of or recognizes. So I do think that it's just a time to be very cautious and wait till you get your approval, file early, get the approval before your I-94 expires, and you should not be facing these kind of issues.
Couple of objections to what you said, Emily. One thing is that these are not well-trained officers. If they are not well-trained, we can train them. But if they don't want to learn, what are you going to do about them? That's number one. Next, Stephen, I have a question for you. Emily has said some of the untrained officers, or maybe I'll say they don't want to get trained, there are judges, immigration judges, that do not understand what a period of authorized stay is. I have one client who went to the NTA, to the immigration judge, not to the regular court, to the immigration judge. And that guy did not understand that the I-94 expired based on the entry on the advance parole after 1 year. And he doesn't, even though his adjustment of status is pending, he can't understand why this guy is legally allowed to stay in the United States. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, both groups, ICE and IJs, have had reduced training going back the last year and a half. They are trying to quickly onboard people, get the deportation machine running, and so they're receiving less training. They're not pulling from people with immigration backgrounds to be IJs. I will say I know one of the IJs in Houston I have a lot of respect for, that went to law school with me. He was a prosecutor. He didn't have any immigration experience prior to becoming an IJ. We, the three of us, learn something new in our jobs every day. And we have a very niche practice, I would say, compared to the global scheme of immigration. And so I can't fault them. I think it's a leadership issue. I think the fact that they're not getting the proper training. And then you have other things that are factoring in. Emily, you and I have been talking, and you've been talking to USCIS, dependent children's on L2 and H4. We're not getting receipt notices for them anymore. Mm-hmm. So if they were stopped at the airport, even though they have done everything right, don't have a document all the time. Some places they do, some places they don't. It's just a failure from the top down, I think, at DHS to not properly put the systems in place to prevent these things that are at odds with the law.
Yeah, and you mentioned kids, spouses too. I mean, I can say till I'm blue in the face, file early and file in premium, but your dependents don't have premium. So when you file your H1 and H4 together and your H1B gets approved in a week, the H4 is still taking 10 months sometimes. And that is the person who's at risk in these kind of scenarios. And there's not much they can do. They can't do a service request because it's still within normal processing time. They can't do an expedite request because they'll just say, well, you're lawfully present. There's no harm here. Do we need to start litigating L2 extension delay cases? Probably, so they can get on a flight and go to Disney World. I mean, how dumb is this?
It's kind of funny you mentioned that, Emily, because me and our litigation partner were talking about this yesterday. We're gonna start putting this issue into our complaints, but one of the government's defenses, to the extent they defend some delay cases, is, well, Judge, they're not really harmed. They can work, they can stay here, nobody's coming after them, no one's going to detain them, everybody's okay. And that's been one of their defenses anytime I see it. Like, they're not really harmed. And now now you're trying to actually put them in removal proceedings, which I don't ultimately think will be successful. But again, this is going against what's written in the law, statute, policies, understanding, and it's all created by failures of leadership. Because if we were timely adjudicating things, we don't have this issue. But it's absolutely ridiculous. We're talking about domestic travel for people that have timely filed for extensions, that have pending green cards, pending advanced paroles. I mean, this is the most absurd thing I could think of that we'd be talking about.
Emily Stevens said that his classmate from the law school, who graduated from the law school, is a judge, immigration judge. Now, is it a basic requirement for the judges to have a law degree, Emily, or even the Pizza Hut delivery, the people who are not eligible for Pizza Hut delivery also can become a judge without any law degree? Can they become?
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely can. They have had so many people exit being judges that they've opened up the requirements and made it so much easier to apply. They have people from the military that are, temporary judges filling in. And no, there's no requirement that you have a law degree in order to be an immigration judge.
And specifically to the extent that they do look, I mean, I do think they are primarily focused on that, but I mean, whenever I see the notes from EOR about new immigration judges, I always like to kind of scroll through the new judges to see who they're hiring. I mean, some are coming from ICE, some are coming from, HSI, some are coming from immigration backgrounds, but not everyone. And vast majority aren't. And again, immigration is so nuanced that even the idea of a visa is interpreted like 4 different ways.
Yeah, we have a really good question from Venkata. Can you direct us where we can go and print the period of authorized stay from the USCIS or DHS websites? That might help people who have to travel. I would have to check, honestly, if it's in the policy manual or not. The best document that talks about the difference between status, authorized stay, and unlawful presence is Consolidated Guidance on Unlawful Presence that was issued in somewhere around 2005. I keep it saved on my desktop because I refer back to it all the time. It's about a 20-page memo that, as far as I'm aware, is still good law. And it gives specific scenarios of if you filed an extension of stay and this happens, what are the consequences? What is your status? What is your authorized stay? When does it end? And so I'm sure we could probably post that on our website easily. So we'll get that working. But as far as if it's in the policy manual, I really don't know. I don't use that
I
policy manual that
I
often.
I will publish an article by Monday, so you can log on to rnlawgroup.com. That's definitely one thing that we will publish and keep it the link if we possibly can. One question for you, Stephen, and this is a very good question coming. The person is reporting that in California, they are not issuing the real ID driving license if you don't have the passport stamping in your passport. Let's say, for example, my H-1B expired in June 2026. I already extended it all the way 2029. My passport visa expired in 2029, 26, June 2026. They are not issuing the real ID. What's the solution for this?
So, okay. Texas is doing this. I guess California is now going this way. I've heard other states too. So, believe it or not, going back to 2008, this is how the Real ID Act's implementing regulations are written. It requires a valid visa in your passport to get a real ID. And, you know, for what, the last 18 years, that hadn't been a problem because all these states have had real ID and non-real ID driver's licenses. And now we're seeing that states are going away from that. So we should have a landing page up next week for people that want to look into this real ID issue. We are looking at some litigation strategies on challenging the 2008 regulations because I did a lot of digging a couple weeks ago. I don't know how they concluded what they concluded for an identity document. Let's back up a second. The visa isn't being used to show status. It's a identity document, which makes no sense that you would have to have the visa for identity. So we are looking into that. Somebody said Oregon is having that too. I don't know if Oregon has a non-real ID driver's license. I know some states allow you to get a non-real ID driver's license, but I know more states are going away from that. That's good to know.
Gentleman is asking question that I am traveling domestically. I have expired visa with valid I-94 on I-797. Spent $2,000 for this weekend trip to New York. All non-refundable. Now, if you already have the I-797A approval with the valid I-94, we have not seen any detentions or NTAs arrests at this point of time if you're keeping it handy. It's only for those people who don't have the extension approved, we are seeing problem at this point of time.
Yeah, I think in the media they're referring to expired visa incorrectly. They don't mean the visa stamp in their passport. They mean expired I-94, but from the media side, people recognize the term visa. They don't recognize what the heck is an I-94. So that is creating some of the confusion and fear. Nalin Kaushal says, does that mean people with a pending approval should not travel until further notice or until the case is approved? I mean, it's at your risk. It doesn't mean you can't travel. There are people that are traveling. I mean, this is not 100% of people that are traveling are getting detained. It's kind of a new thing. We don't know how much it's going to spread. Are we going to be able to stop it from spreading? So it is, you decide that risk factor, how comfortable you feel with, explaining yourself to an ICE officer and going through that process. And if you're not comfortable with that, then don't travel. Another question from Sandeep, is this only for folks who have expired visas or overstayers? It's neither of those. It doesn't have to do with your expired visa stamp in your passport, and it's not overstayers. These people have not overstayed because they timely filed an extension or a change of status or adjustment of status. This is people who have an expired I-94 but are lawfully present in the country based on some type of pending application that ICE is not recognizing or not aware of until they do their digging and detain you for who knows how long. And then they realize it and let people go, except in at least one case we have confirmed an NTA resulted.
Yeah, I just, again, Ellie, you were just saying. I mean, we're giving this information. Everybody listening to this, I would assume 99% of our listeners are adults. Here, y'all make, you guys are going to make your decision. Our job is to let you guys know what we're hearing, from the news. Again, I have a lot of respect for the New York Times reporter that wrote that article. Again, I agree with Emily. I think he wrote Visa because expired visa works a lot better in a headline than people with expired I-94s but have a pending application for something are getting detained at an airport. So
nobody knows what POSA bag is. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, so there was a lot of fear, right? Like, how many people have a valid visa because it's not needed? So just we're trying to just bring you what is going on so y'all can make a decision about traveling domestically. Do you can you maybe postpone the trip a couple weeks so we can get more idea of what's going on? I don't know.
Questions with regards to the F1 visa with duration of status. We haven't seen any issues for those people as long as you're still in the service system. The good part is that the ICE can access a service system much faster than anything else because service system is with them. So we haven't seen any student visa people who are in service system in problem. However, if you are in a reinstatement, you file for a reinstatement, definitely traveling is going to be suicidal. Valid 797, but visa stamp expired. They're not issuing real ID. Yes, that is true right now. If you don't have a visa stamping, in more states are not issuing real ID. Stephen is, please keep watching our blog, subscribe to our blog. Stephen is about to take this one to the court because this is going to affect hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people who are legally staying in United States because of the regulations that passed in 2008, if I don't. So please keep watching our RN Law group. And Stephen is working on getting that thing resolved. But yeah, he will have to go to court and that's going to be an expensive process. We expect some contributions for you and we will, he's going to put a page together soon. Okay. Anything else, Emily?
Nope, I think we've covered everything.
Stephen?
Oh, I think we're good. Just, again, just stay informed on these.
Yes, we'll keep you updated if there is any new changes that comes in. We'll keep you updated. For those people who are on adjustment of status, EAD, you will get a real ID. So please get the real ID. That should solve most of the problems.